children and the issue of the wall. It's a very ugly picture. As the Israeli columnist Gideon Levy put it, he said the reason they're panicking over Richard Goldstone is because he's propaganda-proof. There's no way to discredit him. And I think that's the problem Israel's supporters are facing now. There's nowhere to hide.
Just to let you guys know, I'll be behind. Oh, sorry. I was just telling them that they can write their questions on postcards if they need to.
Thank you for the great talk. I wanted to actually first make a comment and then ask you a question. Based on the last comment that you made, you said that the problem right now is that the moderates are not loud enough to silence the extremists. First of all, I think the election of Obama is as loud as moderates can get or have gotten in a long, long time. But based on the equivocal statements that have been coming out of this administration as well, I do not quite see that this administration is going to resolve the problem. So my understanding and my opinion on this issue is, but please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the issue here is not exactly of moderates being not loud enough, but the fact is that we're living in a world where the three pillars of democracy, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislative, they are independent. Now, even though no matter what the International Court of Justice finds, there is no political will to impose that, and that's the reason why the European Union, the Americans, they have two different points of view as far as this crisis is concerned. And just to make another illustration, like my point is that there has been an independent committee as well, which has found that there were no WMDs to wage the war in Iraq in the first place. But a person like Bush is just going to get away without ever being tried for war crimes. Now, I don't quite see how can we resolve these kind of crises, not just the crisis in Israel, but other crises like Kashmir as well, unless there is a way for us to make sure that whatever the judiciary finds can be imposed on the executive. That's my question and point.
I don't even think the issue is imposing the decision of the judiciary on the executive. The issue is that we have to act. You know, God helps, speaking as a resolute atheist, God helps those who help themselves. We have to act. And that's kind of one of the things I like very much when I spent the past year reading Gandhi's works. Because a lot of people in India would say, what do you think the British are thinking? What do you think the British are going to do? What do you think the British are going to say? Gandhi said, I don't care what the British are thinking. What I care about is what we, meaning Indians, what we're doing. If we get our act together, if we act intelligently, if we act morally, we act courageously, then they'll have to do what we want them to do. Because we're, several hundred million. They'll have to do what we want them to do. There's only 100,000 British here, really around 85,000. The reason they can get away with what they're doing is because we're all passive. We're all silent. We have to act like mature adults. And in my opinion, I mean this to you, to all of you. Being a mature adult means not looking for saviors, not looking for messiahs, not looking for the great man or great woman in history. It means taking your destiny into your own hands. That's what you do when you turn 18. You become responsible for your actions. And that also should mean what we collectively do. We have to act. We have to do something. You think you're young, but you're not really young. You know, those people your age, who changed the whole face of this country. Go look at the videos of the civil rights movement. Those kids are 20 years old. They are 20 years old. Martin Luther King got the Nobel Peace Prize when he was only 27. But the actual civil rights activists were your age. I was just thinking to myself today, President of the United States is African American. The Secretary of State is a woman. That was all because about 40 years ago, people your age changed the face of America. Literally your age. Why do we care what people up above think? They don't care about human life. They don't have any morals. That's how they get into their positions. Every one of you in this room probably has had 1 or 2 jobs already because you have to pay those college bills. And you all know, does the person who has morals get promoted? Is that the person who's the boss in your place where you work, the one who's the most honest, the one who's the most decent? So now when you're talking about the peak of power, the boss of bosses, you know how immoral you have to be to get there? How many oceans of blood you have to have waded in to get there? Don't look to them. God helps those who help themselves. Look to yourself. And I say the battle can be won.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It's a bit along those lines. I'm wondering, for the present and the future, for anyone who read the history and you pointed at several facts, it's pretty incontroversial what happened. It's pretty incontroversial what the international community opinion is. It's pretty incontroversial what the highest judicial body position is. All of this is pretty controversial, just as the quote-unquote war in Gaza 11 months ago was pretty controversial. It was not really a war, it was more inauguration on the prison. My question is, I guess, for those who had some illusions with the new administration, it seems that there's not much change. Then Hillary Clinton just had a few comments Saturday about the settlements. My question to you is, well, we feel pretty pessimistic when we look at the, but what do you think can be the new parameters for the future and for some kind of a process that will go towards some real middle ground?
Well, and that's an important question. And that's what I tried to suggest this evening. The parameters should be what all mainstream human rights organizations, judicial bodies, and political bodies have said. The message is not radical. It's not extremist. The message simply says Israel has to fully withdraw from those territories occupied in June '67. There has to be a just resolution of the refugee question. That's what the whole international community has agreed on. And I don't see any need or necessity to go beyond that. You can just see what's happening to Goldstone. He's an utterly mainstream, utterly respectable, as he was described the other day, a very prim and proper person. And just, I mean, he himself, and I believe this, by the way, he himself is absolutely shocked at what's going on in this bonkers country of ours. The Congress, the House of Representatives, is going to pass a resolution condemning the report, whereas I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar that 95% of them haven't read one page of the report. It's just completely insane. You're going to condemn Goldstone now as an anti-Semite? Enter into your search search feature, Goldstone anti-Semite. You'll get 75,000 websites.
Can I ask a question from the questions that have been written? There are 3 questions that are all deal with the same thing, essentially. Why is it in the interest of the United States government to continue a policy which is so manifestly unfair to the Palestinians?